Good evening. I welcome you all to a webinar on design thinking and using it in teaching high school biology. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Gurpreet Manaise, higher secondary educator, a postgraduate and specialized in biology. I'm an educator with 20 plus years experience in CBSE affiliated schools, India and Nigeria, presently stationed and working in Nigeria. I'm a higher secondary and high school educator of biology, having a deep passion for innovative techniques in educative methodologies. I'm keenly interested in music, detective stories, and astrology. And apart from doing MEd, I'm currently pursuing a course in psychology. That was a brief introduction about myself. Let's have a look at today's masterclass expectations. Please be respectful to others during the presentation. Keep your mics and muted unless you are asked to speak. Be aware of your camera. Please use and raise hand emojis if you have a question. Please help me to create a positive learning environment. Let us have a look at today's masterclass learning objectives. First and foremost, we'll be able to define design thinking. It's a new concept in the corporate world, but we as educators should be also ready to embrace this topic and the concept in education and in our fields of education. Second learning objective of today's webinar is to explain the importance of design thinking in the field of education and biology, differentiate between traditional methods of teaching and design thinking, analyze design thinking as a process of learning, not as a product, and last but not the least, to create a lesson plan based on design thinking. Today's masterclass takeaways, the major one being design thinking that offers unique approach to problem solving. It's a solution-based approach to solve a problem. Second being its contribution to and fostering the 21st century competencies, which are essential in contemporary education and at the workplace. And last but not the least, that the design thinking is thinking outside the box and not fearing any negative feedbacks. Let us start our webinar. So first and foremost, I will like to take up a call. And before that, I will like you to think upon your emotional level or the emotional state, that is the emotions or the feelings you are having just now, that is at the present moment. You can quickly share your expressions of emotion like anger, fear, joy, sadness, being offended, or happy, elated, or whatever you feel like, and just crystallize it into one single word in the chat box or in the Mentimeter. Do not worry about the quality or the accuracy of the emotions you are feeling or you are putting up in the chat box or in the Mentimeter. Focus less on the quality and more on the emotion or the feelings you want to try and express with your explanation. I will like to share the Mentimeter link in the chat box. Just give me a minute. I hope you can see the Mentimeter main page. Okay, I get one feedback, happy. I can expect more feedbacks. If you're not able to use the Mentimeter link, you can please scan the QR code and give me the type of the emotions or the feelings you are experiencing right now. If you didn't get the link, please put up the emotions maybe in the chat box so that I have an idea. So feeling joyful, curious, feeling happy. You can sum up your feelings or emotions and crystallize into one word, which you can put up here. I have received a lot of words here which depict your feelings right now: curious, happy, tired, expectations, impatience, excited. So, do you expect the change of the emotions from one moment to another or after some time? Can you please put it up in the chat box? Or do your emotions or feelings remain the same? Okay, yes. I receive a feedback, yes. It may change within no time, yes. Yes, you're correct. Will change, yes. It's a roller coaster, true. Sometime it changes, yes. Will change, Mr. Mitesh Popwat, yes. So from this activity, what is the main purpose of this activity as an icebreaker with you? Feelings change and they are temporary. Are they in our hands? Are the feelings or the emotions which we feel at different moments of our time, are they in our hands? Or they are influenced by the environment? Okay, so I receive the feedback, no. Environment and situations. Mr. Vikramjit Dev, yes. Okay. Yes, please. I see a raised hand here. Yes, please. Please put up your question in the chat box. Yes, most of you respond that the feelings or the emotions which we feel, which we experience during the different moments of the day, they change. So they are not in our hands. And sometimes they are influenced by the environment or the situations or the type of the conditions we face. Yes, Miss Usha, you are also correct. It also depends on our mind, how we take it. Yes, very nicely put up. So my main aim of this poll or taking up your suggestions, taking up your options was based upon the emotions, and same is it applicable to the emotions of the children and emotions of you when you are teaching and the children who are being taught to us. So first and the foremost thing is the primary duty of the teacher is to first see or to feel or to just sensitize the students of how they are feeling at that present moment when we are going to teach them. I repeat myself, when we are going to teach them. So if the teacher is able to have an empathy with her, in her, or empathize with them, that is the students, I think that goes in a long run in understanding them. So this activity which I planned here today is to prepare you to be aware of your emotions. And same thing goes with our class children. Same thing goes with our students. So different emotions are experienced by the audience. The audience may be you people, for me, or the students, for us in the school. And these emotions are not constant. By being empathetic, we can develop deep understanding with the others, and therefore this can help in creating engaging and productive solutions. And this is equally applicable in all the sectors. It may be applicable in the business. It is equally applicable in entrepreneurship, in education, in all the other sectors. So my primary aim here is to create and to understand and to um, stress upon the importance of being empathetic in the field of education and other sectors. Now, this word empathy forms the basis and the first step of what our webinar is based upon, that is design thinking. So, what is design thinking? It's a new way of finding out the solutions to a problem. And it is a solution-based approach which can be applied in all the sectors of life, be it be business or entrepreneurship or education or name it. And it is a solution-based approach where the students, if we are talking about the educators, eh, will always iterate. That is, they will always keep on trying, keep on failing, and it's a usual process in design thinking. And it's a non-linear process. It does not end anywhere. So the students keep on trying, they keep on finding the solutions up till they end the end point. It's a way of thinking and working, and it is supported by collaboration where the students work upon different strategies and methods to find out the solution to a particular problem. Now, this design thinking way is a lot more different from the traditional way of thinking as we imply or as we apply to the method of teaching in education. So let's see what does it mean. It's just a broader picture which I want to give you here. Design thinking asks us to develop empathy. That was what the Paul was meant for. I wanted to ask you about the emotions. So design thinking also goes deeper into the emotions and the feelings of the children or the user who wants to find out the solution to a problem. And it understands the needs of the people we are designing solutions for. It defines the problems and opportunities. Then it generates and visualizes the creative ideas for finding the solutions to that problem. Then the users or the students or the learners, they develop the prototypes. Prototypes here means it's just a non-working model or a non-working solution, different types of solutions which are put forward by a group of children who are working collaboratively to find out the solution to a problem. Then, and last step is when they create a prototype, they try to work on it and test the solutions. If it is successful, they give the feedback. So that was the broad outline of how we use design thinking in any sector. So that way we achieve the learning objective, that is to define design thinking. So design thinking basically is an iterative non-linear process, and it's a new way of thinking and working. So to start with, I present before you two figures, one on left, one on right. Can you please help me know which one of them represents traditional way of thinking and which one represents to you the design thinking way? Is it on the left or the right? Design thinking, which one is design thinking? Which figure represents you design thinking? Which figure represents you traditional thinking? We are talking about classrooms here, the seating arrangement here. Okay, left design. What does the left design figure shows you? Is it the design thinking or the traditional thinking? Two figures have been given to you, and one on left, one on right. Okay, I'll please go to back and I think I have to show you again. I hope now you see the two figures, one on left and one on right. Now, is it possible to be seen? Maybe some technical error. Okay, I'll ask you just a simple language. Suppose we have a classroom scenario in which we make the students sit in rows and they're facing the instructor or they are facing the teacher. And in the second case, we make the students sit in clusters or make them sit in groups with one desk in the center, maybe a round table around which the students are seated in groups. So which one? The first case where the students are seated in rows will represent the design thinking, or the second case where the students are sitting in clusters. Yes, please. You can put up your answers or responses in the chat box if the figures are not visible. Second case is design thinking. Yes, please. Yes. So I get a good response here. The second seating arrangement where we make the students sit in form of clusters will represent your design thinking. And as such, it will also represent design thinking classrooms. So I go to the next figure. I will ask you if still the figures are not visible. Please let me know. Are the figures or the pictures still not visible? Not visible? It's visible. Okay. So I think it is now in front of you. On left hand side, the picture represents the students sitting in rows. They are facing the instructor. It means the students who are sitting in the front row or in the middle row get the attention from the instructor. Whereas the students who are sitting at the back row or in the end rows, there they show the minimal engagement. It means the student communication is less at the back seats. That represents the figure on the left hand side represents a typical traditional seating arrangement. But on the right hand side, if we talk about the students being sitting in clusters and working collaboratively, the approach is teacher centered. Let us come to now some case scenarios. I hope the pictures are visible. I have pictures which represent students being seated in a straight rows in a hall facing the instructor, of course, representing the traditional seating arrangement. And on right hand side, the students sitting in clusters. And that representing design thinking classroom.
Gurpreet,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, I guess there's some issue with your presentation. Can you restart your screen?
Okay, I should start from the beginning.
No, 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 no. Let's begin with that image thing, image slide.
Yes, ma'am. I think everything was okay when I checked before starting. I'll share it again. Yes, ma'am. Is it visible?
Yeah, but begin with that image slide.
Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, better than before. Okay, you can resume.
Okay, I can start from the
Yes,
point
please.
left.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we have case scenarios from real life where we have students seated in a wide hall, a broad hall, but it is in the form of rows. Whereas on right hand side, the students are seated in clusters. So evidently on left hand side, it shows traditional thinking classrooms, whereas on right hand side, it shows design thinking classrooms. So desks arranged in the rows and columns, it makes difficult for the students to collaborate effectively, and hence it's a teacher-centered approach, whereas collaboration is an essential skill that supports social growth, and having furniture configurations which will support collaboration, will support this work is the key factor here. So that is why well-designed spaces, as we saw in design thinking classrooms, will always impact the student learning first and the foremost. The students here in design thinking classrooms will always have flexible seating arrangements, have their chosen workspaces, and therefore they can adapt to their needs, such as learning stations, soft seating, or height adjustable desks and chairs. I hope I'm audible now. Okay, thank you. So that brings to us the difference, the fundamental difference between design thinking and traditional thinking, and hence the design thinking classrooms and traditional thinking classrooms. A very important difference between design thinking and traditional thinking classrooms is that design thinking always embraces ambiguity. The students always make mistakes. The students can make mistakes, they can try, they can make errors, and therefore they will repeat the same thing, and that is referred to as iterate. So someone has asked the meaning of iteration. Iteration means repeating the same mistakes again and again. The mistakes can be same or different, but when the children are making mistakes and finally they are arriving at a particular solution, that is referred to as iteration. So iteration is the key to success for the students. But in traditional thinking and traditional thinking classrooms, the approach is teacher centered. So it has to be perfect the first time, and the students always avoid the failure. They have verbal thinking and planning, and it is totally a passive experience for them. But in case of design thinking and design thinking classrooms, which is based mainly upon the collaboration among the students, it's a visual, doing, and active experience for the children or the students. And it is the process expert which is guiding them. Whereas in traditional thinking, it is the subject expert which is guiding them. So which one would you prefer for your teaching? Is it the design thinking or the traditional thinking? Please put up in the chat. Which one will you prefer? Is it the design thinking or the traditional thinking you will put up in your teaching? Thank you so much. It is DT. Yes, design thinking. Thank you so much. So design thinking is just a way of thinking in a new way. It's thinking about the problem and just in a new way. The students come up with the solutions, just making so many mistakes. So let's please see a figure in the form of a bar graph where we can see the comparison between arranging of the classrooms as traditional and innovative. Innovative here represents the design thinking classrooms, where it is clearly seen that if we are arranging the students in a design thinking way, or design thinking classroom will always favor the integrating tasks, adapting, individual learning, and cooperative learning, whereas lecture-based teaching or traditional-based teaching will not promote all these things in a larger scale. So that brings us to the achievement of the learning objective, that is differentiate between traditional methods of teaching and design thinking. I welcome your questions if you have any regarding design thinking and traditional thinking. Please put up your questions in the chat box, if any, regarding design thinking and traditional thinking. Then we move ahead to the steps of design thinking and how we can implement them in our classrooms. Okay, one such question which I welcome is how can design thinking be used if the number of students are more? So they can be made to collaborate in groups. That is what design thinking is meant for. You are going to make the students sit differently. They can have different calibers. They can be middle achievers, they can be low achievers, they can be high achievers. They are made to sit collaboratively in clusters and work together. And maximum interaction is ensured with the help of the teacher. Yes, Montessori method also follows design thinking and it can be followed. And it is very, very useful and it can be applied in all the subjects and all classes. In self-learned classroom, how can we implement this method? Of course, we can implement self-learned classroom means the children are up to some method where they can implement, where they can use this method. So let us see. Okay, please, someone asked to share the previous slide. I will take up your questions at the last. Someone has told me to share the last slide. It's a bar graph based information, which shows you difference between the achievement of the outcomes when you follow the traditional thinking system and when you follow the design thinking or innovative space system in your classrooms. Evidently, the results or the outcomes which are seen in design thinking classrooms or innovative spaces will be higher. So to get the core idea of design thinking, let us watch this video. I hope the video is audible. Okay, I'll start the video, please.
You're going to design the ultimate dream house, but here's the catch. It can't be a mansion. It has to be small, very small. You get only 240 square feet to work with, and the height can be no taller than 10 feet. You also get $15,000 to spend on materials. So create a floor plan. What rooms will it have, and how will you convert one room to a new room? What features will it have? How will you make it both fun and practical? And what will the furniture be? What materials will you use? And how will you keep those inside your budget? How will you be eco-friendly in your design? Is there anything you can repurpose or reuse? Where will this be located? In the mountains? In the ocean? In the desert? Maybe in a tree or inside a hill? Or perhaps underground? And how will you keep it cool enough or warm enough for that specific environment? How will the location shape the architecture? Who will live in it, and how will this home accommodate their needs? Now make a model of this tiny home and make sure to keep it to scale. Your items will include duct tape, cardboard, construction paper, and popsicle sticks. Be sure to experiment and make tons of glorious mistakes. And remember, every iteration takes you closer and closer to success.
I hope the video is clear. Should I play it again? So it is talking about iteration, that is to try again and again, doing errors, and these errors finally leading to success. So based on this video, I would like to ask you some questions. Eco-friendly materials to be used for construction. Here we are talking about design thinking for constructing a house. So what do you think will be some of the eco-friendly materials used for construction? Please put up in the chat. Okay, mud, water, wood, brick. Limestone is not eco-friendly. Bamboo, yes, of course. So some of the eco-friendly materials are, which are present in the nature, that is organic. So wood, bamboo, cork, bioplastics, straw bales, all are eco-friendly. Next question which I want to ask you is, how will you decide the location of the house? If you want to make a house to be based on design thinking, is there any preference for the location of the house? In the video, we had several locations. Is it particular location of the house you will prefer? Yeah, please put up the answers in your chat. Okay, one answer is far from population. Having least noise, okay. Any other? Okay, a forest and based on that, the material, okay. Good air and light availability. Mountains, okay. One large room with lots of air, okay. So a lot of favorable conditions which we need to have the location of the house, okay. Coastal areas, far from earthquake prone areas, okay. So it means we need the location of the house where all our requirements are met, isn't it? So it depends upon on your choice where all requirements are met. Let's now come to the kind of mistakes which we are expected to make here. We have to choose so many things out of the given criteria for making and designing the house. So are there any mistakes we are expected to make here? Please put up your options in the chat box. Because remember, design thinking is based upon making mistakes. The more you make mistakes, the more iteration you do, the more nearer are you to the solution. It is based upon trial and errors. Until and unless we are not doing trial and errors and students are not doing trial and errors, they are not up to anything. So whatever are our requirements, if we are not choosing the things according to the requirements, it means we are making mistakes. When all requirements are not met, it means it will lead to mistakes. And it is a natural process. It is a natural part of design thinking. So maybe all our requirements are not met every time. Why do you think mistakes are necessary? Yes, please, educators. Why do you think mistakes are necessary? To learn, yes. Okay, allow us what is right. Yes, very nice answer. Well done. Mistakes leads to perfection. Yes, that gives you the better solution. Because doing trial and errors give you the solution. So errors are indicative of trials. If you're not making any errors, it means you're not trying. And iteration is the basic thing or the basic key to success. I hope you get the core idea of design thinking and how we can imply or implement this idea, core idea of design thinking into our education and the practices, the teaching practices every day. So in this video, we saw developing and agreeing on criteria for house design, selecting the tools and materials, supporting each other to learn how to use these new tools, and producing a working prototype. And later on, we proceed to what? The testing. Testing of the prototype. After testing of the prototype, we give each other feedback. We assess the designs against the previously agreed criteria. It may be possible that the designs which we thought and discussed about earlier were not meeting up to the point, to the mark. So we discuss about all the kinds of designs, making modifications and improvements, and testing these designs in the context in which they would be used. And that leads to the reflection. That is the most important part in design thinking. And this reflection on the problem solving process will enhance the attainment of the learning outcomes. Now comes before you a figure. I hope the figure is visible. Okay. We have certain digits which are represented on left hand side of the figure and certain digits which are represented on right hand side of the figure. May I know which side of the figure shows you design thinking? Yes, you are correct. It is right hand side. It's correct. Very true. Thank you for your responses. So if we are sticking to only one kind of solution to a problem, that is traditional thinking. That is represented by the left hand side. But if we try to look at the problem by different ways, for example, here, if we try to achieve the same digit 8 by using addition, by using subtraction, by using multiplication and division, it shows design thinking. We are trying different types, different methods to achieve at the same result or to have the same solution. So we have traditional thinking when we talk about the figure on the left hand side. That is, we only look upon at the correct answer. But in case of the right hand side uh, figure, we have infinity number of possible answers to the same solution. So traditional thinking starts with a specific idea. Design thinking starts with a well-framed question and it is solution-based. Traditional thinking will be always problem-based. Traditional thinking will refine a single idea, whereas design thinking will enable the students and the learners to explore various ideas, to think about the problem in different ways and find out the solution. So traditional thinking is always organization focused, whereas design thinking is user focused. Here, user also stands for students in education. If we are talking about educators, they are our students or the learners. I come to section 2 now. What are the various 5 stages in design thinking? If you want to implement design thinking in education, we have to think about all these stages. That is empathizing, defining, ideating, prototype, that is making the prototype, and testing. So first and foremost is empathizing. I think we have already talked about it. Empathizing means when you are well aware of the emotions and the feelings and you are aware of the user's needs. And here we can also please talk about the learner's needs. If we are an educator, stage 2 means defining. You state your learner's needs or user needs and problems. Stage 3 is ideating, means you will work upon to define that problem and work upon its solution. Try to take out the solutions of that problem. And stage 4 is creating a prototype. That is, you will create a solution for that problem. And last but not the least is stage 5, when you are testing your solutions out with the learners. And in this way, any stage in these 5 stages can be repeated. It is because design thinking is based upon what? Trial and errors. It may be possible that while ideating, that is while creating ideas, and finally going to stage 5, that is testing, it may not work. So it means at that stage, the student has to return back to defining and ideating again. Similarly, when they are creating the prototype, it's not working fine or solution does not make any sense, they can go again to empathizing. They can go deeper into understanding the users and learners' needs. So basically, design thinking process is a non-linear process. It will always work in a non-linear way to create solutions. So design thinking process aims to satisfy three criteria, that is desirability, feasibility, and viability. Desirability means what do the people desire? People here means learners, if we are educators. Feasibility, if it is technically possible to build a solution. And viability, can the people profit from the solution or not? It means if the solution we have found out is working well or fine or not. If it is not, it means it has to work again non-linearly, and iteration has to be done again and again to find a perfect solution. So design thinking is a non-linear process. In all these 5 stages, as you can see in the slide, any step, if it is not working fine, then we can return back to the previous step to work on it again. So that is why it is a non-linear process and it is an iterative process. It's unlike traditional thinking method, which is set on certain fixed rules and always seeks the correct answer and the correct solution. It has minimal student engagement and student-centered approach. Let's now have a brief history of design thinking. It was, first of all, introduced by a cognitive scientist, a Nobel laureate called Herbert A. Simon first mentioned design as a way of thinking in his book, Sciences of the Artificial, from where the design thinking evolved over time, where the founding director of Stanford Center of Design Research, Mr. Larry Lazar, considered as a father of design thinking. And from there on, design thinking got a widespread adoption and applications. Until now, it helps to create creativity, innovation, and user-centered thinking in various industries and fields and corporate areas, and even taught in many universities and used by organizations. Now, design thinking has differences from the various other pedagogical theories. Let us go through the various differences. First and foremost is the focus. Design thinking is solution-based, whereas the traditional thinking methods will always be problem-based. Design thinking involves multiple disciplines and perspectives, whereas if we say any one particular subject as an educator, it will always and always focus on a single discipline, and that is analytics. Design thinking is always human-centered. It is because it always starts with empathy. It is always empathizing with their user or learner needs, like emotions and feelings, and then proceeding towards the solutions. The approach in design thinking is relational and fluid, allowing the learners to do exploration and combination of ideas to find the solution, whereas traditional thinking does not permit this. It is only and only problem-based solution approach, and it is teacher-centered approach, and it has a perfect answer without involving any iteration. Last but not the least is that design thinking is non-linear and iterative process where it will always have analytical and a linear, sorry, where the traditional thinking is always analytic and linear, always focusing towards a particular one solution to the problem. We have notable some real life examples of successful design thinking projects. First being Airbnb's users experience. In 2009, Airbnb faced challenges with its website and user experience. And using design thinking, the team conducted user researches, empathizing with them, included their interviews and home visits, and finally redesigned the platform, which significantly increased the bookings in Airbnbs. And second and very important example is redesigning of Huggies diaper. Huggies diaper also involved redesigning here to improve their diaper product line. They conducted also design thinking based extensive user research to understand the parental needs and preferences. And these redesigned diapers featured better fit and absorbency, and therefore they increased their market share. It is real life examples of design thinking. Now let's watch a video to see how design thinking can be applicable in education.
Design strategy is about thinking differently, putting yourself in your customer's shoes to design solutions that not only fit their needs but delight them by empathizing through observing people in real-life scenarios like shopping or through open-ended interviews to uncover what people do rather than what they want. Because if you ask people what they want, they don't necessarily know. By immersing yourself in your customer's world, you can understand their needs, gains and pains. How? 1. Empathize. Immerse yourself in your customer's world. 2. Define the non-obvious insights. 3. Ideate. Brainstorm solutions. 4. Prototype. Build an MVP, minimum viable product, of ideas in the shortest possible time. Then take those prototypes back to your customers and ask what they think. Design strategy starts with the customer, then offers the solution, not the other way around. For example, an Australian supermarket chain wanted to design a unique, engaging in-store experience to further set them apart from competitors. So we followed their customers around, interviewed them, and watched what was happening in store over a considerable period. Customers wanted to feel more connected with the suppliers of their produce, an in-store experience they couldn't find elsewhere. One of the winning ideas was an in-store milk dispenser with old-style glass milk bottles. Customers fill the bottles with single origin high-quality milk. They can see details of the cows and farms that produced it with assurance the suppliers receive a better price. This experience delights customers and is very successful across stores. If we had asked what customers wanted, they probably have said cheaper produce. But by empathizing, living and observing, we developed an idea that not only excites customers, but gives the store a unique edge by connecting with customers' hearts and minds.
I hope the video is clear to you. This is one of the videos which implies how we can use design thinking in business as entrepreneurs. So same can be applicable to the education area. We being educators also can use design thinking in the similar way. Why do you think from this video we have to connect to the customers before selling anything? What is the basic idea of connecting to the customers? What is your opinion? And how do you connect? Do you see any analogy between the customers and the students or the learners we are every day encountered in our classrooms? Yes, understanding the needs and requirements, understanding the emotions of the students. It is same in all the cases. So it is always necessary to understand the user needs before we jump into any kind of business. It is always important to empathize with the students before we start our lesson and before we educate them, before we teach them.
Design.
So design thinking aids to solve common real world problems in the classrooms, schools, communities, as we saw in the video as well. How can we induce design thinking and how does it look actually in action in a classroom? Can anybody please tell me an idea what is going on in the classroom if you see this on the display board? How does the figure in front of you suggest that the design thinking is going on in the classroom? Can you pick up some words from this display board which is showing you that design thinking is going on among the students in the classroom? Okay, feedback, solve problems, yes. Learn from mistakes. Yes, about perseverance. Work in collaboration, new skills, yes. Excellent, collaboration, excellent. Okay, feedbacks, yes. And last but not the least is to be great designers. So if we are leaving the students at their own, of course, supervising them a bit and guiding them, they can be great designers and creators of solutions to the problems which we can't handle or which we can't solve. Being a single-handed, it's better that they collaborate, put up their minds together and find out the solutions. This is how a design thinking classroom display board will look like if we implement design thinking in our classrooms. Now let's move to empathy in teaching. If I am talking about my subject, that is implementing design thinking in teaching of biology, of course, I will have the first step with me to empathize with the children. That is, I have to tailor my teaching methods to meet the student needs, leading to more effective and engaging learning experience every time. The next step being ideation and creativity. Same as business we saw in the video, I have to brainstorm new ways to approach the same complex biological concepts and design the experiments to test any kind of hypothesis or ideas or clues by the students. Empathy in teaching and ideation and creativity is equally applicable to all the subjects. The first step being empathy can be applied by the teachers whether they are teaching mathematics, English, social science or any subject. Creativity will lead to prototyping, that is designing and conducting the experiments to test the hypothesis or creating the models. The only difference in science and biology with other subjects is experimentation. And this can be replaced with other kinds of testing the students or student testing their testimonials in some separate ways. And therefore, completing this step. And last, not the least, very important step, that is the iterative learning. The students are encouraged to continuously test and refine their understanding of biological concepts. Some other subjects may also can be applied here. And therefore, it helps to develop a growth mindset and a lifelong love of learning among the students. It's not a fixed set of rules and principles which we are going to follow in a particular subject. We are going to just present a problem in front of the children and they are going to work on their own using these steps. Can we label design thinking as a method of project-based learning? I need the responses in the chat box. Do you think design thinking classroom looks like a project-based learning in the classroom? Okay, one response is yes. Almost the same. Not every time. What do you think is the major difference between design thinking and project-based learning? Which step in design thinking is not present in project-based learning? Or differential learning? Yes, I got the answer. Empathize. Ms. Shruti Acharya, thank you for your answer. Empathizing. So empathizing means when we are aware of the needs of our learners, we are aware of their emotions and feelings. That thing I think is missing in all the other forms of learning, like project-based learning, just we talked about, and similarly differential learning. We are aware of the capabilities and abilities of the children in differential learning, but we do not empathize basically with them in differential learning. Thank you for your answers. Let's watch another video how we can apply design thinking in a biology class.
Design thinking is a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of Step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper. Look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mentioned when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. You might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversation. Design thinking is a 5-step
Sorry.
ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or open shop.
Yes, before we watch the next video, I will like to ask, why do you think we need to dive into the different needs of the people? Here in this video, they are talking about the needs of the old people, how they want to walk, and for what reasons they want to walk. So why do you think it is necessary to dive deep into the needs of the people before we create any prototypes, before we go for solutions for the problem? Please put up in the chat. Am I audible? Okay, we can take the solutions according to their needs, that is appropriate. Okay, learn the different needs so as to reach more customers as per different needs to address the actual problem of the users. Yes. Yes, all are correct. I'm happy to get the correct responses this time. It means in all these cases, we are empathizing with the users. We are empathizing with the users. If we empathize with the users at the first step, we are able to create the solutions in a perfect way. So let us go to the next video where actually the students, it is regarding the learners now.
5 stages: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In this video, I will describe my experience in working with Mrs. Keeshaw's first grade class for a unit on animals. The unit was based on the Next Generation Science Standard LS1.A, Structure and Function. This unit also involved the K2 Engineering Next Generation Standards. Mrs. Keeshaw and I thought this unit would be a great opportunity for students to try using the design thinking method. The goal of the unit was to have students design the ultimate animal and present their design to Mr. Bernardi, our computer science teacher who was formerly a zookeeper. The unit began with a class discussion, where students discovered that the external parts of animals had specific functions that helped them to survive in their environment. They also talked about the essential needs that every animal had. In the empathize stage, students used the Kids National Geographic website to gain a deeper understanding of their subjects, looking up numerous animals, observing their unique external parts, and trying to figure out their functionality. They jotted down all the external parts they found on the website. In the define stage, the class discussed what were the needs of all animals and tried to find insights that would affect the design of their ultimate animal. They soon figured out that all animals had external parts that serviced them with their essential needs, as well as helped them survive in their unique environments. Next, we placed the students in groups and had them list all the external parts animals would have in different habitats. Using the most significant need and insight, the class developed this problem sentence. 1C will design the ultimate animal that can survive in every environment by finding food, water, air, and shelter. The ideate stage requires students to list as many visual solutions they could for the problem statement. During this time, Mrs. Keeshaw, Ms. Cho, and I walked around the room and provided constructive feedback that would help them with their design. After reflecting on the feedback, students developed a new design of their ultimate animal for their problem sentence. In this stage, students created a physical mock-up of their ultimate animal using clay. This process also consisted of teachers providing specific feedback. Some students found that they needed to make alterations due to the unproportionate design. We were lucky to have Miss Bettison, our elementary art teacher, teach the students about scoring, a technique used to join two pieces of clay together by scratching down the surfaces of the two pieces. She also explained that clay pieces should not be thicker than 1 inch. During the firing process, bubbles trapped in these parts might explode, causing the prototypes to be destroyed. Finally, students painted their ultimate animals and were sent to the kiln. Before presenting their ultimate animal to the zookeeper, students used the Explain Everything app, an interactive whiteboard with screencasting capabilities, to record themselves describing their ultimate animal. Finally, Mr. Bernardi came to the class as the zookeeper and interviewed each student about their ultimate animal. He provided students feedback on what external parts of the animal worked and what external parts may need more thought. The students then had the option to make the necessary adjustments to their.
Okay, so the video was regarding an ultimate animal. What do you think the ultimate animal meant here? Please put up in the chat. Why do you think the students worked upon creating ultimate animals themselves? What did they want in their ultimate animal? Very nice. Yes. The animal which could thrive in anywhere, that can survive in any condition. Thank you. Best in all. Okay. Do you think we can have an ultimate animal which can survive anywhere or which can adapt to all the new environments? No, of course, no. But the students here try to gather out all the characteristics of different kinds of animals which were found in air, water, and all the other kind of habitats to create a new animal which can survive in all the habitats, in all the places. So they tried their best. And how did they test themselves? They test themselves by the interview with the zookeeper. They try to design a new animal. So based on this video, let's probe into some of the questions. Why do you think the students combine features of all the animals to create a new animal here? Yes, the students learn the best features for survival by doing this activity. Very nice. Because they desired to create an animal which can survive in all the habitats. Why did the students in this video use clay for this purpose? Could they use wood or iron? Okay, they use clay to redesign. But what is the purpose of using clay? Yes, because clay can be easily molded to make the wings, to make the tail, or whatever. But wood and iron, they are not flexible. They can't be molded in desired shapes. That is why they could not use wood and iron. The last question which I want to ask you is, what's your opinion about chances of survival of a newly created, that is ultimate animal in this video? Can it survive? Is it possible to create such an animal? Is it possible to design such an animal? Okay. Okay, maybe in future. Okay, we have created many mutants, but their survival is little bit less possible. Okay. Hypothetically, it may be possible, but naturally, no, yes, of course. So because it's a small class and the children want to design new animals which are having all the features. So that is why they make up the combination of all the features of the animals to create an ultimate animal which can most probably survive in all the environments, which is not yet possible. So some of the examples which I will like to give you from teaching of biology can be given in these figures. On the left hand side, you can see a child drawing a figure using poster paper or a colored paper where he has joined and made different pieces of different animals and made one animal having a head of the parrot, body of a fish, and the tail region of a dog. So in this, the students try to create a new animal, but they could well imagine and they could well justify the non-existence of this new animal in the in any kind of environment. It's not possible to create such an animal. In the second experiment or an activity from biology on right hand side, the students were told to create a model of buccal cavity. Buccal cavity in biology means mouth. It is containing separate features like teeth, tongue, and all those features are there. So the teacher told them to select such a material which is flexible, which can be opened and closed simultaneously, and the placement of the teeth should be as such, which should be exactly similar as shown in the mouth or the buccal cavity. So they use their creativity, they designed using the poster paper, divided it into half, folded, and stuck the pieces of paper which were not used, which were not used anymore. to create buccal cavity, and a tongue as a strip of the colored paper. Then more examples from biology is on right hand side on your screens. Extreme left is a child who has made snake out of a strawberry. In the middle, trying to create and design monohybrid cross and dihybrid process of Mendel, that is the genetics, on a poster paper. And on your extreme right is trying to make an animal cell out of a cake. How do they design all the organelles out of fruits, berries, and all those eatables on a cake or a pizza base? They make up their mind and they design the organelles according to their wish to represent an animal cell and a plant cell. So that comes to the stage of achievement of our learning objective. That is, explain the importance of design thinking in the field of education and biology. Now, how to teach design thinking? Basically, design thinking will involve empathizing with the students and the users. It's not a technology that's the issue, it is the people and the processes. It is because the first step in design thinking is empathizing. The teachers can use digital devices, but there has to be transformation in the assessment. AI tools like ChatGPT can also be used, where it offers students to access to a wealth of information. They can use it for their research and practice guides in active and applied problem solving tasks. Teachers are required to address differences between the learners, that is to empathize with the learners and fulfill their expectations and needs. This can be achieved through universal design of learning, that is UDL, which emphasizes on multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation of knowledge, and multiple means of expression of understanding. In other ways, it also is a form which is depicted here is differential learning. A child can express or do or show the learning in different ways. Significant changes in the role of the teacher characterize the current education systems. Teachers are expected to design the tasks, that is curriculum materials, worksheets, and all of the other things that achieve a variety of goals rather than to simply implement existing bookish knowledge. So we are here to create design thinkers and not traditional thinkers. Now the question arises, how can the teachers embrace ChatGPT to use it to enhance design thinking? Mostly it will be inevitable to leave all these digital devices. It is because they help us to reinforce the principles of design thinking through their ability to generate student-centered solutions with its iterative problem-solving approach. Each of these phases of design thinking, ChatGPT can be a useful tool. We can think about projects, as I have also exemplified from teaching of biology, that will help us to enhance and deepen learning. Of course, that will involve the same steps, that is, develop empathy, generating and visualizing ideas, defining them, developing prototypes after ideating, evaluating and testing their designed solutions. So basically we see that design thinking is a process which is involving 5 stages. It's not an end product. The students are working on solutions. They're not focused on the problems. They think about the different solutions to the same problem. So it is human-centered. It means it is student-centered. It is team-based. It is because it is a collaborative strategy. It is creative, iterative process for problem solving. The process always focuses on the end user, that is students, and implies empathy skills to gain an understanding of the problem. And that makes design thinking a process itself. And that leads to the achievement of another learning objective of our webinar, that is, design thinking is a process of learning and not a product. With that, I come to section 4, that is creating design thinking lesson plans. I will be talking from biology point of view. You can create lesson plans in any subject, whatever subject you are teaching. The thing is, you should have first step as empathy for the users, for the learners. So by emphasizing on the empathy, we can ideate, we can prototype, we can test, and design thinking can help biologists and other subject experts also to approach the challenges with fresh perspective and develop creative solutions. So here also, if I'm talking about biology, it will always start with empathizing, learning, designing, again redesigning, because it is an iterative process here, building up and testing, that is experimenting in the lab. We have seen design thinking in biology with respect to many biological challenges like drug discovery, in conservation biology, where biologists can use design thinking to develop effective conservation strategies, and synthetic biology, where researchers create new biological systems or modify existing ones for specific purposes. So that leads to achievement of our last learning objective, that is to explain the importance of design thinking in the field of education and biology. What are the key benefits of fostering design thinking in education? I think we have discussed now several times. It will be always different from traditional way of thinking and traditional thinking in the classrooms because it promotes creativity and innovation, helps students to develop a growth mindset. Instead of the fixed mindset, it is because they are continuously making trials and errors and iterating. It solidifies problem solving approach, analytical and reasoning skills. It encourages teamwork and collaboration. It trains the students to be more adaptable and versatile. In short, I can say design thinking is one of the best tools we can give our students to ensure to have creative confidence in their abilities to adapt and respond to new challenges. You see how the times are changing. When we were small, the times were different. And now the times are changing. We are moving towards digitalization. And design thinking is one of the ways by which the students can have creative confidence and in their abilities to adapt to these new changes. It helps to identify and develop innovative and creative solutions to the problems. And because it is solution-based approach and it is human-centered approach, and develop an optimistic, empathetic, and active members of the society who can contribute to solving complex challenges the world faces today. So conclusion, we have separate sightings here where inns and buyers found an open and flexible seating arrangements improved students' levels of engagement in the classroom. Horn Martin claimed that teaching styles and room organization are linked to each other. Carrie Pannon found that flexible learning spaces coupled with the use of student-centered pedagogies facilitated higher proportion of collaboration and engagement. Oblinger also emphasized that space and the pedagogical practices, they are linked. Passivity is most related to lecture-based learning, whereas innovation and flexible approach is mainly linked to design thinking. Marx et al. Found that more questions were asked by children when seated in more collaborative space, that is, in a design thinking classroom, than in rows. As the figure shows you here, design thinking students will have the following mindsets. They have creative confidence, they learn from their failure, they are empathetic, they are doing trials, they are iterating, and they are comfortable with their ambiguity. In contrast to the traditional classrooms. So that brings us to the last and conclusion of all the learning objectives which we have achieved and the key master takeaways from this class. Last but not the least, there are certain questions which I will like to ask you. Please put up your answers in the chat boxes. Is design thinking considered a pedagogical approach? What is your opinion? Okay, yes. Okay. Why do you think it is a pedagogical approach? We talked about design thinking as a process, various stages. We also talked about uh, design thinking classrooms. Now I'm talking about pedagogy. Can it be considered as a pedagogical approach? So I need the reason why. Okay, it helps in active learning. Design thinking can be considered as a pedagogical approach. It is because it fosters creativity. It starts with empathizing. It fosters creativity. And there is an ability to identify innovative solutions to complex challenges by the students. They come up themselves. They demonstrate that kind of skills. They learn these skills by design thinking. My second question of this session is, does flexible student grouping used in the classrooms enhance design thinking approach? We talked about design thinking classrooms. We talked about the traditional thinking classrooms. Yes, the design thinking classrooms or the flexible student grouping means they are sitting in clusters which can be changed at a particular interval of time in order to enhance their collaboration. Yes, flexible seating arrangements are based on student-centered approach. They can also sit according to their preferences. The main thing is collaboration is there and empathy is there. Okay, do we need to create new lesson plans when we employ design thinking in our classes? I talked about the lesson plans in biology. Do you think we have to create the lesson plans from the very beginning in a different way if we are implementing design thinking in our classrooms? Okay, so the answer is yes. I see the chat box for the responses. Okay, totally flexible would do. Okay. Okay. Okay, one such response is, can you show? I think they are asking me to show the lesson plan. Okay, first let me give you the answer to the need of creating lesson plans, whether we need to create new lesson plans or not, if we want to imply or apply design thinking in our classrooms. The answer is no, we need not. We can use the existing lesson plans, but we have to make sure to incorporate all those activities that emphasize a human-centered approach to education. Means we should empathize with the children, let them work together, have flexible groupings, create their solutions by ideating, defining the problems, work upon the solutions, iterate, and finally test. Even if they are not successful, they can try it and try it again. So it means that will allow the students to work through the problems creatively. I hope the answer is clear. So we need to only, yes, experiential learning. We need to just incorporate certain activities which are related to design thinking. That's it. Thank you so much. These are some of the cited links. Please stay updated with ITU on Instagram. That brings to the end of my webinar. I hope I have satisfied your answers or questions or doubts. You are open to question answer round in the chat box. I will welcome your questions, please. Yes, we can use, one such question is, can we use design thinking for other subjects? Yes, ma'am, we can use design thinking in each and every subject, each and every grade. The thing is, we have to just apply certain activities, starting with the stage called empathy with our learners. Let them work upon the problems their own way in a flexible manner. Okay, how can we, it can be used in theoretical topics. In theoretical topics, I mean to, you mean to say languages? Theoretical topics also, please mean will involve the same stages, starting with empathy. It will also involve the same steps. Can we use AI in design thinking? Yes, we can use AI, we can use ChatGPT and all other AI tools. We can tell the children to use in the class. That will impact the learning, and that will be experiential learning. How to remain time bound? If with design thinking is used in every class, we have to we have to plan our lesson in such a way that it is not exceeding the time. The examples from biology teaching which I give you are from my personal teaching. So including those activities and being time bound is what we learn with time. Okay, any other question? You tell me to share the lesson plan. Okay, one such question is, can you share the sample of lesson plan related with design thinking? Lesson plans will be the same as we write or as we type. We make digital lesson plans, only include the activities as per your subject, which will enhance the experiential learning or project-based learning in the students. Let them do the mistakes. We are there to guide them. We are facilitators. Lesson plan will remain the same. Any other questions, please? Okay, what tools and activities can we introduce to KG students? There are a lot of tools. Basically, in KG students or nursery students, that is the Balvatika students, we have a lot of colorful tools to be used in the class. So that can be used as an experiential learning. I think 90 to 99% of learning there is experiential. So they learn by doing mistakes. Let them sit in clusters, let them have flexible groupings, and they learn. Yes, please. Any other questions? I want to give you um, one such site. It is called Maker's Empire. Please go through that site. The link is here. These are the videos from my subject, that is biology. You can have from for your subject one such video which is not downloadable is where the students create custom bags, tags. In order to differentiate between their bags, the students go for the playtime, the student goes for some outside activity, and they leave their bags in some room. But when they return back, it is difficult for them to recognize their own bags because all the bags are same. So how do they come across for the solution? They work upon it and they create tags, bag tags. They stick the bag tags with the initials of their names on the top on each of their bags. So that worked. And when they come back, they could recognize their bags and they could work upon this problem. So one such example is this. And the second example is of students helping the toddler with cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a disease where a child is born with improper development of limbs and there is some problem in the brain. So here the children work upon a solution how to help a child walk with the help of some artificial limbs. They work on it, and this is how they create a solution. They work upon several solutions, they work upon several possibilities, and ultimately they come to the solution. So both of these videos from Maker's Empire, they give us an idea how the students work upon and they use design thinking to have their solutions. Okay, I'll copy the link. I'll try to. Any other question, please? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such a wonderful audience. I enjoyed the session with you. Thank you so much.